that it's going to be up and running here in a second. So for those of you joining us, welcome. We're just waiting for some people to pile in. We got kind of a staggered release of this live stream, so just give us a second. And well, what have you been up to, Dylan?
Me? Well, just trying to quickly catch up on the OpenAI lawsuit. But other than that, in my life, I've been, just working, like all day, every day, keeping up with everything. I had, yeah, I also am playing with a little bit of a new setup today. So I'm like trying, I might, in theory, have better eye contact than usual because I'm like looking through a teleprompter kind of thing where there's like a reflected mirror, but I had all new camera lenses and stuff I've been playing with today, so it was blurry up until like 2 seconds ago. Let's just hope there's no technical issues.
Gotcha. For some reason, it's using my old setup here for the one second. Yeah, for the people that are joining us, today's going to be a little bit of a weird stream. I'm a little bit sick, and so just bear with us here.
I feel like, do we ever not have weird streams? It's always something.
It's always some. Oh my God, dude! Last time I was cracking up so hard because like I think the connection broke. So the thing is, it looked to me like you froze, and I think from your side it looked like I froze. So we both kept the stream going and talking. It was
Oh,
like the
oh
Schrodinger's
no.
cat. Remember that? And the thing is, later I'm like, I checked the actual replay of the stream, and no, I dropped off. So you were doing the live stream by yourself, basically. And
Uh,
and yeah, it was so funny. Like I'm not sure if we just got into a fight or whatever
like
you said.
we're
I was
both
like, oh
like, you
my
know what? I'm just gonna say my point. I don't care if I'm talking over him and just cruising. We both like silent
yeah.
on the other
Hey,
side.
it worked out. It worked out.
That should be
Unfortunately,
live stream hacks.
yeah. So I don't know what's happening here with with one of the live streams. So I'm live on one of them, and the other one it seems like it's just being weird. So
Let me go
I'm
see if
gonna
I'm
delete this thing.
live.
How's yours? Are you up and running?
Oh yeah, 6 people watching. What's up, friends?
What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining us today. This beautiful, beautiful day. I'm recovering from a sickness, so I apologize in advance for whatever shenanigans and nonsense this is going to be about. This live stream is brought to you by Dayquil. I probably shouldn't be promoting any medicine.
Yeah, especially when you don't get paid for it.
I know, but like,
No money, just promote medicine randomly just to get in trouble.
well, the only reason I'm here is
Because of NyQuil.
or Dayquil. Yeah,
Dayquil.
Nyquil is. Oh wow, okay. So we got a lot of people showing up and popping in. So thank you everybody so much for jumping in here. Let me just get the chat popping out so I can show it to people.
Oh yeah. Forgot you taught me that tip last time.
It helps
Pop
quite
out
a
chat.
bit. Pop
Cool.
out chat. Oh, we got people piling in. Thank you so much, everybody. Love y'all. Thank you for being here. There we go. Okay, so I got my pop out chat, and let's go. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about a couple different things. First and foremost, Google kind of is warning people that there's a lot of hacks that are coming down the line, a lot of zero-day exploits and stuff like that. And there's Versal got hacked. A lot of things got hacked. It's kind of important for people to realize that we're probably going to get hit with a lot of cybersecurity issues, going forward. Have you been thinking about that at all? Like, have you been like in your own personal cybersecurity kind of thinking about it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I have been thinking about it because I'm making YouTube videos about technology, and I did cover in the video I filmed last night some stuff that Google had announced about a 2FA that was had a 0 day they could get by it, and they didn't announce exactly where and when and how because they went back and have been patching it. But yeah, it was all AI based, and it felt like the kind of thing that has come up in the past, but it's never been exploited so quickly at such scale. And that was kind of an interesting new twist, right? It's not just that there's more vulnerabilities. It's just that if there's a if there's like a crack in your house, or like you open your door and like 100 people run in the door before you're able to close it because LLMs just produce at such a high speed, then it really is a worse problem than even the same door being open just a couple years ago when not that many people could find it or exploit it. And yeah, it just seems like the pace of everything is so fast that it's like its own kind of danger in its own way. But on the same note, there's like a million ways for Google now to patch it faster, and they did patch it extremely fast comparatively to their history.
Hmm.
So we're just watching that chicken and egg sort of system go forward. But yeah, I was thinking about it there, and then personally, yeah, I mean, I have my 2FA and stuff, but I've never felt safe and continue to not feel safe completely.
Yeah. Great read by Mr. Andre Karpathy. I've talked about it before. So he's got a whole. Well, that one is from a while back. It's from a few years back, but a lot of it is still very current. Yeah, a couple of things that I'm thinking of is one thing is we always use. I think most people have their main email address, and it has their name in it, and they also use it to kind of email back and forth with people and also sign up for everything. So at some point, I realized that that was probably a horrible, horrible idea. So like all my important stuff is on email addresses that I never use for anything else, if that makes sense.
Right.
There's one for communication. There's one that I used to sign up for because whatever they're gonna spam you if you sign up for anything. So that's like a separate thing. So I think that's part of it. Then there's like I'm probably gonna try out using privacy.com, I think it is, and their virtual credit cards where you can designate a certain amount for a credit card or a debit card, however you want to think about it. So it's mainly to avoid being, signed up for various rebilling things. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think that's going to help out quite a bit.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Do you feel like in your head can you pretty much remember all of the things you're subscribed to right now?
Not really.
No way,
I
dude.
do
Me
check.
neither. Like
Yeah,
sometimes
I
it's
do
my
check.
PayPal, sometimes it's my Apple, sometimes it's like the regular credit card billing. I'm like, oh, it kills me. And especially like
Oh,
some LLMs they're like, oh, we just renewed at the $100 tier, and I'm like, dang it, I forgot about that refund.
yeah. I do just because like to the so I don't pay the ADHD tax. I do have a little spreadsheet where I put it all in to the best of my
Smart.
ability, and every once in a while I'll go through and change it. But I wish, if something like private, whatever I want to double check what it is, but it's like privacy.com. I think to put in chat if you use that service, basically the virtual credit cards where you're able to, and then you can have like 10 different ones, or you can have one for each, and just that kind of
Right.
makes sure you don't get double billed.
Well, and you've got your strategy, which is like to put the credit card number out on the internet until it breaks, and then just get a new one. So
That's a
that works
pain
too.
in the butt, though. Yeah, I've never had issues with it, and last time that I've had issue with it, I was like, this is not working out. So
Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes instead of canceling the credit card, you just flash it on your live stream. Perfect. But
I didn't
yeah,
even. So the thing is, I didn't even. It was in the logs of the AI agent, which is why it's so hard to do live streams showing how to build stuff live, because sometimes when you're doing it in the CLI, right, it's like, oh, here's your IP address. Oh, by the way, here's your email address. Oh, by the way, here's your credit card. You're like,
stop! I'm live
stop.
right now. I know. Wait till the
Yeah.
future where you can just tell your open cloud like, "Hey, I'm going live." So anything that's sensitive, keep it off screen.
People are
Future
saying I
now.
look like a pixelated mess, so I do apologize about that. I wonder why we haven't had that issue before.
Do a speed test. What's your up and down speed?
Testing, testing. Can you hear me okay like this still,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I can hear
Okay.
you.
I feel like a lot of this stuff might be due to Riverside because we use Riverside and that's being broadcast to a lot of different locations. In fact, now we're doing a double stream. So it's Dylan's channel, my channel, X, and what's the other one? Twitch. So I'm wondering, do people watch any Twitch streamers, whether that's gaming or people just talking? Let me know if you guys follow anybody. Who's like your number one person? And even if you don't watch them on Twitch and maybe just follow them, watch the clips when they come out on YouTube. I'm curious, like, just throw out some names that you have watched, whether it's for 10 minutes or for longer. RR or R Wrightsma saying try slash goal with Codex. It's on another level. I had a session over 28 hours. So I got to start doing that because I use it quite a bit, but I usually go, I'll type in a prompt, I'll hit tab. Each time you hit tab, it sort of like puts it in queue for the next one. So I've been doing that quite a bit. But I got to try the slash goal. People are saying Asmongold. Dylan, do you watch any streamers or anything like that?
Yeah. So my diet's mostly like a little more podcast related. It's usually long form audio or some of these like how everything was built kind of channels or like theme park channels. So not too much streaming, but every once in a while, I don't know, someone like CoffeeZilla or Moist Critical, like Charlie, I'll end up like catching something that he does, or I mean, but not the video game streamers. I know that's kind of like more your space. I don't really watch any of them, but and I don't really like the politics either. So yeah, not too many live streams, or sometimes walking around cities and stuff. Sometimes I feel like I go on vacation through live streams, but they're sometimes just quiet. They're just like peaceful nature walk or what Australia looks like right now in
Oh,
some small city that I've never heard of, and I'm like, okay, I can devote an hour to this, and I'll just like
I
start
used
through
to
and
do
just
that.
sitting.
I used to put that on as like a side monitor. Like sometimes they go through various cities or something like that. It's either a hike or a bike through various cities. Sometimes it would get me a little bit annoyed because people, if somebody's walking through a city, people would like stare at the camera intently. It's like, ugh. But you think about that person probably has some weird contraption in their head that's like,
For
so yeah, of course
sure.
they're looking at it, but you don't think
Right,
about
but
it
it
like,
makes
oh,
you,
why
but
are
you
they?
get so lost in it. You're like, this is me. I'm on vacation, and like, why is everyone staring at
Yeah,
me? It must be my face.
yeah.
I'm so ugly. And you're like, no, no, no. It's just the voyeurism that you're trying to live vicariously through right now. Don't worry.
So people are saying they're watching Theo from T3, Primogen, Asmongold, some of the names that are people are saying out there. Let's see what else. So yeah, thank you for putting that in there. Yeah, I've been seeing Primogen and Theo kind of blowing up on YouTube more and more. Or I guess they've been around for quite some time, but them posting it more and more on YouTube, it seems like it's like really really growing. So very interesting. So Theo is on a warpath with Anthropic.
Oh,
It's always very interesting to kind of see that whole thing because yeah, he's very like outspoken about what he believes and doesn't believe and whatever. So it's always like very interesting.
interesting.
How big is T3? I'm going to ask the chat. How big is T3 chat for people that have tried it? Because it's like, is it a? It seems like a pretty big thing if it's like people are spending millions of tokens, or I should say millions of dollars on various tokens through T3 chat. So I don't know too much about it, but let me know if you do. Um, yeah, Dylan, sorry, what were you saying?
No, no, I was just kind of curious about the streamers. I think I was going to ask a question about what you listen to or watch or something, and as far as like tech goes, but I'm not sure. Kind of forgot. I started thinking about the lawsuit again, the OpenAI lawsuit. I was wondering. Well, oh yeah, oh that's what I was thinking. I was. Do you know anybody that's doing kind of like a lawyer or anything who's sort of streaming the lawsuit day by day and giving commentary through it?
Oh, well, we do have our friend of the show. So actually, I should probably check if
Oh,
he's
that
doing
would be fun
anything.
to talk to her again. Yeah.
Oh, well, we have, I guess we have two. So we have Crystal Laser,
Yeah.
and so we have Matt, who Matthew Mishak, I forgot his last name. So he does a lot of stuff about like AI governance, AI laws, and stuff like that. So I should probably reach out to him again and chat with him because he knows a lot. He goes to a lot of these conventions, and he oftentimes gets at least pictures. He gets to talk to a lot of these like very well known people, and so maybe he might be a great person to kind of talk to about all this stuff.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I was like this close to going to Google I/O next week. I just really wanted to go. I had it on my calendar and everything too, but I'm not gonna go anymore.
Yeah, that's too bad. I always feel like I need to be going to a lot of these things and meeting people, and somehow it always like falls through.
I know, but life gets so busy. But I started watching some YouTube videos of people who'd been to the past ones because I wanted to see, you know that kind of classic Google thing. They have that outdoor stadium where they're
Hmm.
always like previewing things. Like I watched somebody give a video tour about like what it's like when you're actually there, and there's like a little food cart right outside the entrance, and all the little booths that they have set up for all their AI stuff. But I don't know. It seems really fun. I think some of the Gemini videos and stuff are leaking, so I'm still gonna cover it, but I'm just not. I don't know. I don't know if I want to walk around and actually demo all the stuff because I can't get out there right now.
I wonder if the so people are saying like my video is pixelated. So I wonder if it's a Riverside thing where it's like uploading the video at the exact same time as we're trying to live stream, and that's what's causing the issue. I bet you that's what's happening.
Yeah, you were looking pretty pixelated before, but you did start looking sharper right now to me.
All right. So I do, yeah, I apologize to people. So on OBS, it seems like it works a lot better. So I'll take a look at I'll take a look at some of the options. So maybe this is just a sort of an issue with that. So I do apologize if I'm looking all pixelated.
Maybe.
Maybe it's just pixel art. We're going retro. We're
Yeah,
going
maybe. Or you can
retro.
check if it's maybe you're uploading 4K instead of 1080 or something, and then it doesn't. I don't know.
No, it's saying 1080, but it is like uploading everything in real time, which it maybe it shouldn't. If we're trying to live stream to like four different platforms. Anyways, so let me just I guess quickly let's talk about the OpenAI lawsuit
All
because
right.
there's been yeah some pretty interesting things that are happening in that space. And basically, let me know what you guys think about that whole thing is happening. Is there a side that you're rooting for, or do you think it's a real lawsuit?
Oh my
Is it?
gosh. Did you see that did you see the question given from Elon's lawyer to Sam that was like, "Are you completely trustworthy?"
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
"Oh, what a like completely at all times in every way, maybe not."
That's a hard one to answer, and I think that whatever it does is it's sort of gonna put pressure on OpenAI and kind of their founding story. Like it's gonna question their reputation, which might be a problem, especially as Elon is spinning up the new company is now called SpaceX AI. So he's
Hmm.
got X and SpaceX and XAI all in the name of the company, which is pretty interesting. But and today I guess the Grok build beta is live, so maybe we'll have a chance to
I
kind of
heard
jump
that.
in there and check it out. Suno, I do want to incorporate Suno into more of our live streams. I feel like it's so fun. I keep listening to that song that we made last time.
Oh yeah, that throat music. That was awesome. Vroom,
I thought
vroom.
it was, yeah, that was pretty cool. I'm like, I should really make some more. And
Yeah.
it does feel like each new version that they release is a step forward. It's
Yeah.
hard to tell at first, but then after a while, you just keep coming back to it a little bit more and more.
No,
I
I've
feel like.
like, my playlist has maybe 10% like AI stuff on it now, and my friend Dan, he's got like almost like all of his music. He's like generating music almost every day for
Oh
whatever he
wow.
wants, and he's listening to it. So, I mean, Suno's definitely filling a gap for, I'm sure a tiny tiny niche community right now, but it's definitely starting to take over more and more bandwidth. And I'm
Yeah.
sure because some of it doesn't feel like AI slop. A lot of it still does, but when you sift through and find a couple things that are fun, they're pretty fun.
Yeah. I enjoyed it, and recently I've actually been playing a little bit more with HeyGen. For people that know that they have a lot of new stuff that's coming out that's actually pretty impressive. Because they've really pushing towards that sort of digital twin AI avatar thing. But now they've integrated with C Dance 2.0, so now you can take your digital twin or whatever, throw them into whatever crazy situations you want.
By the way, do you have any psychological disconnect when you're feeling something from an AI generated song? Like anything emotional enough that maybe you don't want to like cry, but you kind of are like, oh, you get like a little choked up, or you feel like there's some like fight songs, like you're not gonna keep me down. I'm gonna keep going. I'm like, hell yeah, you're not gonna keep me down. I'm going to the gym, you know. But I'm like, wait,
Hmm.
this is like not a real person trying to express these feelings. Have you had any disconnect with the lyrics or the messaging or the feeling, knowing that it's not real, or does it not cross your mind really?
No, I mean, no, no, it crosses my mind. It just doesn't. So, I mean, like, like if you think about what art is, right? To me, how I would have always defined art is you have somebody that expresses something, like emotion or a feeling or a state of mind. They try to capture it, and then they kind of like the observer, right? The people like watching the movie, the painting, listening to the music, they kind of try to see it and they, in their mind, create some state or emotion or whatever. So that's kind of like what art is. But then all these other things that get involved with it, like where people are like, oh, well, what did the artist mean? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? But are we
yeah.
supposed to
Like the
feel?
lore around it.
Yeah, but are we supposed to feel the same thing as they? Not necessarily. I feel like you can get a completely different emotion from
Yeah.
it and still be good.
Well, another thing that's kind of blown my mind is somehow I get subscribed to a couple of people on Instagram Reels who are they're like live reacting or drumming to famous songs that I'm already really familiar with, but done in different styles. So there would be like Blink 182 in like Irish, like jig music or something. And I'd be like, oh my God, I like remember this song. Like I remember really liking this song. And it just has such a different feel, you know, like a different voice, a different sort of pattern to the music, but it's still essentially the same song and the same keys. And I find that kind of endlessly fascinating too, because it is easy for my brain to just jump into it and sort of be nostalgic. It was a human song, but now it's also kind of just remixed in a really fun way, you know?
Yeah.
So I've kind of gone through a phase of that too recently. And then, but like, but what if it was like a lost album from the Beatles or something, and you knew it wasn't real, but it was meant to mimic the Beatles exactly from an era when they were still alive and making music. Would you enjoy something like that if you were a big Beatles fan, or would you consider that be like, no, there can't be any more if it doesn't actually come from them?
Well, have you heard the thing they did with John Lennon?
No, I'm guessing they made some songs that he never wrote.
Well, so here's the thing. He wrote this one song, and he did it recorded in his home, in his flats or whatever it is, and the recording is horrible, right? So like you can barely hear the
Oh,
music. So, but it was a song that he created. So they took AI and they were able to kind of extract what was supposed to, and the his voice, him playing the piano. So it's basically him, I think, for all intents and purposes, just made into the highest quality possible through AI because the recording was so bad. So to me,
that sounds
that
come to me. Yeah.
yeah, I think so. We could probably, are we allowed to play stuff on on stuff like this? I wonder. Let me double check.
Sometimes you get away with it for a minute, but
Because live streams they have a different sort of
yeah.
thing, right?
And I'll tell you another interesting story too. Is so I on Monday there's this like one event called Monday's Dark that I go to sometimes, and it's like meant for like raising money, and it's like local kind of artists. And there's this woman, she's a really good singer, and she has a band, but this isn't somebody who has like tons of money and they can always get together, and a lot of venues don't have enough money to pay for the band. Like so she's a kind of a gig singer, but she's got this band, and the band isn't able to all get all five people together as much as they'd like. So they used artificial intelligence to create sort of versions of the song that she can kind of do minus one instrument or minus two instruments. So now they have a little bit more ability to kind of go somewhere and say, hey, who can make it to this gig? Okay, three out of the four of us can. So then I'll use this AI track to sort of fill in the gaps. And, you know, of course, they could record like all of the tracks separately, but they played together. And it was, I don't know, it's sort of fascinating. Like she was actually using AI to kind of enhance the experience, but it's still a human generated thing. It just depends on how much they want to lean on it based on how much a venue has to spend. And I was like, okay, so that's giving her like more options to make money doing her passion, and that's one of the few times I thought, okay, I guess AI is actually helping more people hear human music.
Yeah, I mean, but even if it wasn't human, if it wasn't them recorded, like in general, um, I don't know, man. Like it's like if I get enjoyment out of something, I understand that's probably more shallow than I don't even know if that's the right word. Because yes, of course, it's great if somebody provides something, if a human creates something, and then that's useful to another human. That sort of exchange is so deeply rooted, I think, in our like evolution in our brains. Like that's what we're supposed to do, like interact and provide value. Okay, but what if I really truly enjoy something that is completely synthetic?
But
How bad is that?
would you ever dare call something AI created a masterpiece?
I don't see why not. Why? Like, what is the meaning of the word masterpiece other than
Well, I
it's
don't
like
know.
it's excellent?
Like just like vroom vroom or whatever. Like, would you be like it's a masterpiece? It's like it can't get better. It's like Bach or Beethoven or the Beatles, because you can't throw masterpiece on anybody who's not like epic.
Well, I mean, to me, masterpiece is just like a highly a great production, whether it's like whatever a song or music or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I guess I would, unless I'm missing some meaning.
Yeah, I mean that's true. That's what I think about it too. But it just to me that just elevates it above so much, you know. To say like that AI created a masterpiece would be I think that would be like a surprising statement to me. I would have to say like, oh, it's an exceptionally rare, better than 99% of everything that's out there kind of thing, you know. And I didn't know if without a human behind it if I could ever say that.
Yeah,
I feel like I couldn't, but I'm not saying I won't, but it feels like I won't.
the issue also here, I think, is that like before everything got really optimized for money, like take the music industry. I mean, back in the 90s, people would produce these. I mean, take somebody like Metallica. I mean, okay, they produce masterpieces, I feel like. So they write their own songs, they record their own songs, they follow their own sort of like rhythm and flow, and like those are artists, right? But right around that time, I think it was like in the 90s when a lot of people that were like after money figured out that there were probably formulas and algorithms and certain approaches that worked, like, right, get a catchy hook and then just repeat that hook 50 times in a
Right.
2 minute song and then play radio stations to play that song 50 times an hour and you make money. You know, is that art? I mean, to
Yeah,
me,
good point.
that's less of what I would consider art than something that truly moves you that is made with a machine or you know what I mean? Like, so it is. I guess it's kind of like what we defined as it. I think humans are able to corrupt stuff a lot more than just because it's synthetic doesn't mean it's like
Yeah.
not pure. Humans can corrupt it just as much.
Well, I'll share what the like I don't know if this is really being done right, but it's kind of could maybe be a company or maybe just an idea or something. But I often am laying in bed and I'm trying to go to sleep and some earworm is repeating, right? It's just some pop song I heard at the Starbucks or something that's just in my head. I usually do kind of enjoy the songs, but at a certain point I'm just like, gosh, like for the last half hour, I probably just repeated the chorus like 500 times in a row. I wish I was like burning in something useful. And then I think to myself, I wonder if AI could have taken something I want to memorize. I don't know, like the names of the nearest galaxies to ours or something, and turned it into a song, figured out something so catchy it became an earworm. And then I would be sitting here like growing, right? I'd have like more knowledge. I could always like reference this song and I would now know like all the galaxies around me or the periodic table or it's something, you know, or maybe just a narrative, like some kind of story that actually teaches me or I learn from, or it's got some sort of like TLDR from a productivity book in it. So I'm hoping music can actually be some kind of form of communication better because that would have never made sense for an artist before. But for AI, it could customize something to me.
Yeah, and so somebody in the comments said, let's see. So all like music, I think we're talking about. Aborg Mingi saying all based on ancient math like Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio, the golden spiral, Pythagorean ratios, etc., to produce sound. That's the thing is like if you think about it, whether it's like storytelling or music, a lot of it can be reduced down to math and variations, and that's why I mean these large language models and neural nets. That's why they can reproduce it with such great effect because it is based on some point in math. And I think that's why, a lot of people that we've interviewed, as well as, somebody like Demis Hassabis, who believes that this is a computational universe, basically saying is like, why is it that everything can be reduced to a formula or an algorithm? Maybe it is because what we consider creativity is our ability to pluck a few strands out of that algorithm and be like, look, I figured it out. But certainly you can imagine something that is that's super intelligent, seeing the entirety of it and be like, oh, well, you like that? Here's like a million more that are much more better by whatever metric that, you know what I mean? If you can define what's good, it can find the stuff that's better, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, usually with algorithms, there's, I mean, neural networks being a little bit different here, but if it's an algorithm and it's equations, it does lead to like an incredible amount of predictability. Like it makes predictions and it will be accurate according to however good that algorithm is. But if that is true, then that like always makes me wonder about free will because I'm like, okay, if all of existence is somehow us tugging on some, I guess, more like multidimensional thing, then there's just a pattern to it, and that's sort of where everything we have comes from. So it's like a computational universe. Then we're probably predicted, or like we're kind of explained from the beginning in here too, and then that makes me always wonder about that. I don't know if it's too philosophical, but it's trippy to think that our future, or like that everything might be computational. So sometimes I lean away from that, but sometimes it feels kind of accurate too. So I go back and forth.
Yeah, I liked so we interviewed Mr. Stephen Wolfram.
Yeah.
That was kind of
So
insane. But I mean,
cool.
yeah, but I mean, he kind of said like he has a pretty specific stance on is there free will, right? Because a lot of people are like, oh, is there free will? Is there not? He was like, well, I know the answer. Here it is. It's kind of awesome, dude. He said a lot of stuff before we hit record that I wish. Oh my God, I wish. I don't know. Can we even talk about it? He said some stuff. I was like, oh, why aren't we recording? But what did you think about his take on free will? Do you remember what
I
he
was thinking to
said
remember
about
what he
it?
said. What did he say before we filmed? I gotta remember too. But yeah, is it secret? Was it
He was
personal?
talking about
Is that why you can't say it?
he was personal to yeah, let me recall exactly what he said, but about free will he was saying how we because you can't sort of model that behavior fully. My camera is doing the thing again. Stop, please. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
you have to live through it. So in that sense, there is free will because you can't sort of predict computationally what happens between now and the end of the universe. So yeah, it's like you have to go through all the steps. You have to see the whole movie. It's computationally irreducible. So it is in a
Oh,
sense like free will because you can't predict everything
yeah.
that happens.
Yeah, well, have you heard of the brain, the brain button thought experiment, where it's like if a scientist could secretly press a button that creates an urge for you to stand up, then a few seconds later, that signal would go up to your brain, and then your brain would say, "Oh, I've been sitting too long. I need to stand up." But it might have actually happened in reverse order. Like the brain might have confabulated, or at least the way the science looks like it looks like it is. It looks like that signal is the slight milliseconds ahead of the thought because it's just closer to the brainstem and the body action. So it's more like I stood up, and then your brain's like, I decided I've been sitting too long, but you actually just stood up ahead of time, and then you made up that story, which is such a trippy way to think about it.
Yeah. So Gerbot saying define free will. So that's a good question, right? What do we mean when we say free will? Winsome Hack saying what he calls computational irreducibility. You have to calculate it out. That's his take on free will. Yeah, that's exactly right. So, and I like that those two things go together. So, what is free will? I mean, if you don't have free will, your actions can be predicted by something or someone, machine or God or another human being, whatever, right? You can
Hmm.
predict perfectly how where you're going to be a year, 10 years from now, etc. Right? So it's like that matrix thing, right? Don't worry about the vase. the Oracle tells Neo. He goes, "Oh, what vase?" Right? He turns around, he knocks over the vase. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and she's like, "No, I told you, don't worry about it." Right? So that's sort of that's implying that we don't have free will because everything is able. She's able to predict everything.
Everything.
What Wolfram is saying is you can't there's computational irreducibility. So that means you can't build a computer that predicts where the universe and everything in it and all the things where we're going to be a year or two or three from now. There's no model that fully captures it. It's computationally irreducible. You have to run the universe for a year to figure out where the universe is going to be for a year, in a year's time. There's no way to shorten that through a model. So in that sense, it's saying there is free will, at least in how we're defining it, right?
Yeah, that's one way to look. Yeah, because that's kind of like the halting problem, right? Like you can't always know exactly how something's going to play out until you start playing it out. So there's definitely an element of unknown there, but free will might still be crushed, right? Like I don't think you have to. I don't know. Yeah, maybe there's randomness in it for sure. But sometimes I don't really think of randomness and free will as very correlated. Like there might be random quantum things that might decide how atoms like are and electrons are, and then that ripples all the way up to decisions you make and things that happen. But or that ripples all the way up to actions you take. But I'm not necessarily sure those are free choices. They might be unpredictable because there's randomness in it, but that doesn't mean it's I don't know. It's like stochastic randomness doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, I can choose. It just means like some coin is going to get flipped, and then the fact the future will be played out for me. But it's not necessarily my choice. So
No, but I mean, but if you know the coin flips, will you know exactly where you end up, or
yeah, like probabilistically, kind of, but maybe not
do you introduce
fully.
randomness or not? That's the question. You know what I mean? Do you introduce your own sort of branching timelines or not? I guess is the question.
Yeah, yeah, good question. I don't have an exact answer.
So let me share my screen here. Entire screen, probably this one. So, okay. So here's our lovely chat on the right hand side. Yeah, thanks everybody for joining in. So the John Lennon song for people that want to hear the AI song, it's called Now and Then, and it's on YouTube and everywhere else. I can't play it apparently, so but you know what? I do like it. I did enjoy it. I really had a good time listening to it because it's John Lennon, it's him, and it's yet another sort of piece that he produced that's been made easy to listen to, like in high fidelity and stuff like that. So yeah, I loved it. So in terms of, so apparently this is somewhat recent, I believe. Yeah, this is just coming out now. So apparently Mythos cracked Apple's security, right, which has been kind of notoriously difficult to crack, very well known for its sort of robustness. So this is yet another thing that's that's breaking down. What do you think about that?
Um, well, I mean, I think the whole world's in for a big cybersecurity update. So I feel like we should be pretty, I don't know, I guess pretty aware that like I don't think things are going to stay very private. I mean, it's not just this too. There's this whole code thing with Mythos and how great it is at finding 0 days. But even the kind of things that used to make me feel semi-private, where data was anonymized and given to someone, I've seen too many examples of where the system can like put that back together now. And we have the tiniest little ticks to our voice, the gait that we walk, the I once covered this really tiny little sensor that's inside of car tires that actually has a pattern to it that can be picked up so people can figure out where you're driving. I just think, yeah, all of security is kind of toast. I don't know what that exactly means, but I feel like there will be someone out there that just knows everything about all of us.
I apologize. I'm coughing here. Give me a second.
Oh yeah, just cough it up, dude. Oh yeah, yeah, we can still see you coughing, but we'll save you on the sounds of it. But yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I do think it's okay that some of the frontier models take a quick moment to go to the good guys first. I know there was some debate if you want to kind of switch topic into if Anthropic should be sort of picking and choosing who gets Mythos first and how that's kind of big companies sort of holding us back. But it's kind of like a whitelist, and I do feel like where Gmail accounts are and where really important government services are and stuff that most people rely on, it might be okay if they get somewhat of a small time gap between that. So I'm hoping in the future that everything is still on its way to being as open as possible and as available as possible, but it is given sort of a priority to the things that keep society kind of functioning the best, and then um, not a forever timeline, but a reasonable couple weeks or something where you had a chance to fix this. If you haven't done it by now it's your responsibility versus everybody being required to have sort of seen the future and always reacting to 0 days all the time. But yeah, I don't know. But some people think that also creates gatekeepers and they can use it for certain reasons. So I get that point too.
Yeah, and I mean the thing is, the White House actually stepped in because Mythos was going to be released to a lot more people. I think Anthropic wanted to release to like 70 more companies, trusted companies, and the White House stepped in, saying, "Hey, this could introduce concerns," but also they were concerned that there's not going to be enough compute for them to fully test it out.
Hmm.
So it's also one of those things where, interestingly enough, they're considering creating like an FDA for AI models or whatever, some government organization that's going to control what gets to go live. And there's going to be some back and forth about how to go about that.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about that for a second. But first off, yeah, who gets to dictate what the 70 companies are? That does make a big difference because if you're a startup and you're trying to build your own company, but Microsoft gets to patch all their, user problems before you do, and then you launch your app and Microsoft launches their app and they crush you because nobody trusts your app. That's a big problem. So yeah, who gets to actually decide who gets these models in order is going to turn into a big corrupt bureaucracy probably. Oh, there's never an easy solution to this stuff.
Yeah, and it's also going to be very interesting because Trump and the team, they were sort of very AI forward, or at least trying to not put through a lot of regulations immediately. And he's got the AI czar, Sachs, David Sachs, I think, who's been very like forward, not for what's the like
Nick
develop
Pro.
AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, like not too many regulations. Was the kind of stance, and I think Mythos was the thing that changed all that. What's interesting is as Mr. Elon Musk is going through the lawsuit with OpenAI, the judge tells them, tells all of them, "Hey, don't leave. You guys are going to need to be close by to give your testimony and all that stuff." Elon flies off to Beijing, I believe, to talk to Xi Jinping about, you know, some sort of a international AI governance or something like that. Have you heard anything about this?
Yeah, well, so I did know about the trip, but I actually thought it was more about like, oh yeah, at least the version I was hearing was more about like kind of Tesla and Apple and companies like that needing to kind of figure out some more ways to help China so that they don't get their profits crushed in the company. But yeah, maybe if I hadn't heard of that, but yeah, it would be a good time to talk about some kind of international AI thing. I mean, it's important enough that somebody who's got access to those people should put up a pretty compelling argument that like we all lose here. Like you thought the nukes thing was bad. Like if this AI just ends up being my country or your country, but it's done in a way that's like weaponized and not in the best interest of everyone on Earth, then it's not going to be like a good thing, you know?
Yeah, I'd be curious to see how well that works out. It
Oh,
could be. Mhm.
by the way, did you know David? So David Sachs was the COO of PayPal during the PayPal Mafia era. So he goes back to Elon for long ago. I didn't realize that.
Interesting. Yeah, so I guess it was Peter Thiel, David Sachs, Kalakanakis was involved in there somehow, Elon Musk. I just watched, so Netflix, I guess they're trying to reintroduce the WWF, like that whole wrestling thing from back in the days to like replay all the stuff that's been happening. And they've put together a like a documentary series on Hulk Hogan. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it.
Oh no.
I recently saw it. It was very good. So it's the kind of the newest one that just came out. So the whole thing was very very interesting for people that don't know. So Hulk Hogan at some point towards the end of the career, there's a tape of him and a lady friend in the privacy of not his home. It was apparently his best friend's home, and this was his wife. The whole
Oh
like I'm
geez.
not even
Okay.
gonna go into what was happening, but everything is okay because his best friend was recording the whole thing. So I guess it was all okay. So I'll leave it up to everybody's imagination to understand what was happening. But Gawker, which was a online publication covering a lot of the Bay Area news, they published it online, the full tape, and they also years prior to that outed Peter Thiel as being gay. There was this article that they put it out there. He didn't want that out there, but they kept it up. This was years ago, and so I guess Peter Thiel was very upset about that. And in the Hulk Hogan case, it was very interesting because the Gawker they thought they could just keep fighting the case, and eventually Hulk Hogan would run out of money, but he just kept pursuing the lawsuit. He had all these high-powered lawyers, and they just kept going and going and going, and eventually put Gawker out of business because they got a settlement against them. And
Yeah.
what came out is that Peter Thiel, behind the scenes, was
Funding it.
funding the whole thing. So, yeah, do you have thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, that's definitely not how it feels like normal democracy should work, but also money shouldn't dictate these things. But yeah, I mean, it is weird to think about actually. I mean, there could be a day in the future where, yeah, I mean, the K-shaped economy seems pretty real to me. I mean, like in Las Vegas, the most expensive things are becoming way more expensive, and plenty of people with massive incomes are willing to pay that. And then a bunch of other people who don't have much money seem like they're getting less and less money, and it's just very different, right? Like everything is exceptionally luxurious, exceptionally overpriced, or like rock bottom. Like the middle just feels like it's getting hollowed out. And as that happens, it does seem like there will be these people who have such extra resources that if they want maybe AI agents in the future to just kind of like take out their competitors by just, lawsuiting them to death, or to just bother them to death, or to, yeah, like, it could move from just having money to having influence at scale. And, that was one example that's particularly kind of strange and not great for media.
It's
But
strange and it's one of those gray areas because on one hand, exactly what you're saying, like you don't want big money to be able to take out open media, obviously, right? At the top, like you don't want that. You want media to be independent, to be able to say whatever they want. But boy, in this particular situation, is it kind of hard to defend exactly what they were doing? Do you know what I mean?
yeah, for sure.
It's
Yeah. For
like
Hulk
like
Hogan, it felt like, yeah, I'm getting my justice.
well, yeah, and I mean anybody, if you have your own sort of personal stuff that you're doing in the comforts of your own home, should people out there be able to just post it all over the internet, kind of like invading your privacy? Because I mean, part of it was politically motivated a little bit, right? I assume, right? Because they were probably
Yeah.
on different sides of the aisle or
Well,
whatever. So it's like, yeah, also that's not great. So,
right. Well, yeah, it's just like
you know,
the attention should be for the media to be able to have a free speech and like publish what they want. And then yeah, when they step on somebody's freedoms or they're publishing things that are ridiculous, they should also be held accountable. Yeah. So I mean, I'm sure we can pick and choose like things on both sides of it, but yeah, it is weird. Like if Peter Thiel had actually just really knew Hulk Hogan and said, "This is unfair, man," and like the world always picks on people like you, but I have a ton of money and I'm going to make sure that you get a chance to get what you deserve, then I would be like, okay, that was good. But if he did it like, oh, I've got a personal gripe, can we find somebody who's suing them and then I'll just bankroll them to death because I personally don't like them? Like, yeah, like what they did to him, outing him as gay, is that illegal or should they be bankrupted because of it? So he couldn't really get them for what they did to him. So they didn't violate his. I don't know. Yeah, that's tricky stuff, man.
yeah, and that's the thing is where more and more
You
we have
know?
to, yeah, kind of discuss these issues because it's like we don't want abuses of power, but
Yeah.
then what if there was something that was done that we disagree with that led to, like, I don't know, man, it's kind of weird because it's like is this justified because of what came before it, or should we not even look at that? Because again, like, okay, so let's say we feel that Gawker was that they did something wrong and they should have been shut down. Let's say for a second we assume that everybody agrees on that. I'm not saying that's true, but even so, is the retaliation by a billionaire, is that okay then? Because doesn't that then create the slippery slope? Because then in the future, like Bezos, for example, right? Or somebody else like Elon doesn't like somebody that talks bad about a Tesla vehicle and then uses that power to shut them down. Like all of a sudden that gets hairy really fast.
Yeah. I know, and a tweak to the social media algorithm, and nobody even knows. You know what I mean? I mean, did you ever see that tweet where Sam Altman said to Elon, like, "Hey, if you sign an affidavit saying that you didn't tweak the algorithm to promote yourself above everyone else, then I'll apologize." Like I'm pretty sure that Elon first thing he did when he bought Twitter was to make his voice much more amplified, right? Like whatever it looks like. Maybe it's not force its way into everyone's account, but some kind of tweak to it, like make it 100 times more punchy or powerful, and then that allows him to talk about Tesla and new stuff happening at SpaceX, and it just gets so much more of a push, Or when TikTok CEO during the beginning of the first Trump thing where they might ban it, like he pushed a message to everybody on TikTok just explaining their position, and I was like, I guess you own it, but it's like it just starts to get really weird. Like not everybody gets an equal voice anymore, and the playing field is not fair.
Yeah, I mean, for specifically Elon and X, I don't mind if he's able to amplify himself because if I mute him and everything that he's retweeting, that stuff is gone from my timeline. I'm a lot more scared of doing stuff behind the scenes that amplify all the accounts that are sort of aligned with what you're saying and shutting down people that are not aligned. And I'm curious, well, let me ask the chat. Do you think that Elon broadly pushes across the entirety of X his opinions? Does he sort of like give benefits to things that he agrees with? I'm not talking about his account. I'm not talking about him retweeting accounts of people that sort of agree with him. Forget that for a second. I'm talking about like across the entirety of X, and I'm gonna put a poll.
Yeah, but by the way, also that does matter though because there are some people that get a huge payday every time he retweets them. I mean, the algorithm does reward it,
Yeah.
like it does pay you. So like saying something that will get pushed by him is like an actual way to make money. So the incentives sometimes do go that way. But there's similar things on all sorts of different sides of the political aisle and tech aisle and all that stuff too. So but a lot of the incentives just feel broken in that sense. Like it's not the algorithms just aren't caring that much for truth, and with advertisers in between, like that causes even more issues. I think I've talked about this to death, but I'm definitely a huge fan of social media's being something that we maybe pay for. Like I think you should pay $5 or $10 maybe for access so that the advertisers in the middle aren't fighting for attention. Like if they got the same amount of money whether you were logged in all day or not, the algorithm would create a much better communication community. It wouldn't be so extreme all the time. Also, I don't know if you've do you ever watch the infographic show? It's a YouTube channel.
It sounds familiar, but
It's
not
always
regularly. No.
okay. It's always like these sort of anim. There's this like great guy has this great voice, and then they always animate over it. And the one that they launched a couple days ago was basically about how many YouTubers have been bought up by larger companies. And
Yeah,
I know you're not one of them, and I'm clearly not one of them because I'm not even close to revenue like where it should be. But I was kind of
a
shocked
lot of
that
AI channels, yeah, got bought up.
yeah, and in different genres and stuff too. And you know, you have to put that promote like it's promotion, right? Like if me or you take money from I don't know, like a VPN or something to talk about it, we stop, we say this video is sponsored by X, Y, and Z, and we have to click that little promotional box, and it's segmented into that thing. But if our channel was actually bought by and BlackRock is was it Blackstone was one of the companies, one of the big companies had been like buying all these YouTubers. When you actually purchase the whole channel, now you're just the editor making the editorial decisions. And you don't have to mention that on every single thing. So it might be the same creator with the same face, and all of a sudden their edge just went away. Or they have some kind of a narrative that they sort of like lean into now that they never did before. And behind the scenes, you don't know that the whole company, like the person itself, was bought out. And they don't have to disclose that. You don't have to say like, "Oh, I actually have an owner of this channel anymore," because it could have been owned by their personal LLC before, and now it's owned by some big entity, and like that's just not. There's no checkbox for stuff like that. That's not like required to share, and like so that kind of thing blows my mind too. Like I don't. It kind of sucks even with humans. I'm not sure I can trust everyone anymore.
Yeah, it's like because you think of a sort of a channel as a human being, and more there's some corporation behind that, which kind of sucks. Of course, they can control how things are perceived. There's a lot of these corporations that are like the AI safety corporations. I'm very curious where a lot of that funding is coming from. It's a little bit weird. And this is not to say anything bad about people that are like AI safety or anything like that, because we've talked a lot with them. These are very smart people, very sincere people. I'm just saying, like, it seems like there's a lot of these, like, there's a bazillion different organizations, and they're all like something something institute, something something this and that. And it's like, well, who is like, why is there so many? Where's all that funding coming from?
Hmm.
It just throws up a red flag to me, because it's like
What's your thinking? Where do
it's
you
a
think it's
way.
coming from?
Well, I mean, when I was starting, the most obvious thing to me was, oh, this is going to be a big political issue, so that people that just want to, politicians or whomever, they just want to have more control.
Yeah.
This is a good way for them to start kind of like trying to be part of the conversation. And so if they're able to create channels with, puppets that kind of speak their piece, and they're able to like fund them, certainly that makes sense. Like that would be a good ROI. But also I don't really see that happening necessarily. I don't know, man. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know either. I remember like when FTX like went down, they were talking about all those investments. Remember how much of Anthropic they owned? I was like, what the heck? Like, how did they get in there? You know, but somebody, especially Anthropic's an interesting company too because they were OpenAI, right? Like Dario Amodei was at OpenAI, and he was there for 5 years, and he was building those frontier models, and then he had that fight with Sam Altman and said, "You're taking away my resources. I'm supposed to be the alignment person. I'm going to have to go out on my own." And in a short amount of time, it looks like they've caught up with revenue. But yeah, the whole thing was supposed to be around AI safety, and that's why he left. And I don't know. It's just it's also merged together. Like you're trying to do what's safe, but that also sometimes means making a product or getting the money you need for the data centers or being at least profitable enough or having some kind of potential that someone wants to drop $100 billion on you because otherwise you're just not going to compete. It's so weird.
Yeah, really fast. So Ali Catales saying it's been proven that Elon does this. If so, can please somebody let me know if is there some definitive proof? I'd love to see it because I haven't seen proof of this. In fact, I mean, some of it I understand is open source. So I would love if there's a definitive answer to this. I mean, I'd love to know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Whistleblowers. Mhm.
Yeah, I would love to know too. I mean, I can't. I mean, he didn't sign the affidavit saying he didn't when Sam asked him if he did, and that's all I know. I don't know if anyone's run an analysis on it or anything. Let's see. Yes, there's. Well,
But
what's that?
go ahead, go ahead.
The strongest evidence in 2023 was called the Super Bowl incident. In February 2023, multiple outlets reported that Musk became upset after a Super Bowl tweet from then President Biden got more engagement than his own. According to reporting based on an internal source, Musk ordered engineers to change Twitter's recommendation system to increase the reach of his tweets. That was reported by The Guardian on February 15th, titled Elon Musk reportedly forced Twitter algorithm to boost his. So I don't know. Maybe you don't
So
trust that source or not.
no, no, no. I don't necessarily see him boosting his own thing as a issue because here's why I can mute that account. It's similar to what is it? Not Facebook, the one before it, Friendster, whatever, where like you were by default you were friend with the founder. Do you know what I'm
Oh
talking
yeah,
about?
yeah. With MySpace. Yeah, MySpace Tom.
MySpace, yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you know what? You can click nope.
Yeah, I mean, you could
Like
unsubscribe.
if
You could unsubscribe from Tom too if you wanted. But yeah, no, I'm not saying it's like the end of the world either. I
I'm worried
mean,
about a more like behind the scenes. He's like, all right, everybody that expresses this opinion, that gets boosted across the board.
right.
That I would have a huge problem with. If he spend what 35 billion and he just wants to boost his account, but I can mute it, I don't have a problem with that. Similar to how when I buy a Google TV, they push their sort of they push their ads sometimes before the things that like I'm signed up with. As long as it's like, does that make sense? Like if I'm able to
Kind of.
not
Yeah.
follow Elon, I think that's totally cool.
Sure. I mean,
But
like
if there's an
you don't need
invisible
if you don't
force
like
behind the scenes,
yeah.
that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't like Zuckerberg, you can also just like not use Facebook or something too. But yeah, no, muting is an important part of it. For me, what I think would be fair, like what I dream of, is that we get our own algorithm. I don't. I just really think that I would love a layer between all of the people that are on a social network, Facebook or Instagram or X or whatever it is, and what my actual algorithm's full control is. Like if I want to say like I just want educational stuff or I just want this or that, I just want to be able to choose that. You know, it's weird that I have to sign up for where the people are because I want to interact with those people. I want to know that knowledge, and I also have to get it delivered to me based on how they want it to be delivered to me. I can mute a couple people, I can follow a few people, so I understand it customizes it, but I just want full control over it. I just want to build my algorithm from scratch. I want to plug in my own like local model to then go pull all the tweets from X and show me what I want. I know it's a dream, but it just that would be the kind of control where I felt like in the real world I have it, like where I can choose the people I want to see and be around. But it's a
From
dream.
from the lawsuit, there was a couple of things that I thought were very interesting. So, one of Ilya Sutskever shows up, and I love how Ilya Sutskever talks. He's just like such a interesting. He such an interesting character. How he speaks, how he frames things. So, so he of course helped pioneer deep learning, co-founded OpenAI, became a chief scientist. What I like about him, and I always said, is like certain people, they seem like they don't take sides or they don't like talk their own book. They seem to like just try to tell the truth, and sometimes that puts them like square in the middle of everything, almost like against both sides. And Ilya certainly condemned both Sam Altman and Elon Musk. Like he's not afraid to speak out against both of them, or like it complicates both sides, you can say. So he helps Musk by confirming serious concerns about Altman, right? Because he was one of the people that kicked them out back in, what is it, 2023,
Hmm.
whenever that was. And he helps OpenAI by confirming that big funding and a for-profit path were viewed as necessary. This is kind of like what I've always been saying is like, because people were upset that they sort of got away from their open source mission, but they needed the funding. Like the whole thing was you need tons of money to build compute. And I loved how Ilya Sutskever sort of explains it here. He's like, if there's no funding, there's no big computer, right? And then the judge asks him, how big of a deal is compute for the capability of these AI models? So Ilya says, I would describe it as the difference between an ant and a cat, right? So,
Hmm.
it's just
Yeah, 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 yeah. That makes sense.
interesting how he sort of presents this. Satya Nadella was, of course, called up as well, it seems.
Oh, he comes next week, I thought, right? Or did he take the stand already?
I don't know if he took the stand. I mean, all of them, I assume, got what's the
Oh,
word, the depositioned, right? And then also they're taking the
oh,
stand.
for the depot. Got it.
But I feel like today's the judgment, isn't it? Or whatever
Yeah,
the
yeah, I
final
could
thing is.
I could be wrong. For some reason, I thought next week was Satya, but I have been out of it. I haven't been totally following this case, so well, that's great. No, the judgment's already happening, even though they just started a couple weeks ago. Maybe.
Maybe I saw something to that effect on X, but maybe
Okay,
that's incorrect. So
that seems fast, but it totally could be possible. I don't know.
it does seem super fast.
Um,
Actually,
so
you're right.
so what do you think? Like, what's your opinion on the whole kind of the whole thing? Because I'm kind of getting this sense that they did betray their original mission. Like it was a nonprofit mission. It shouldn't have been betrayed. But you do need to make money and you have to have compute. So that's one argument. And then the second one it kind of seemed like Musk's email showed that he was probably going to go that route in some way also. Like he knew they needed compute and he probably was going to have to figure out something besides the nonprofit structure, even if he had control. So do you get the sense that they strayed? I don't know. That Elon Musk is trying to just slow them down, or do you kind of get the sense that he really is upset about the fact that they broke their core mission, even if he might have kind of been leaning into that too?
So the if he, I mean, if he was worried about Google building AGI, and then he founded something that he would control, or it was open source,
Hmm.
and then it went to Microsoft, I don't think there's like any sort of duplicity there, or what's the word? Like that makes sense. Like he's like, I don't want this large corporation developing it.
Right.
So if that's his take, then that's fine. But
Because
if it's
Microsoft's like just as bad as Google. You know what I mean? If they're like either one is not according to what the mission should have been.
if his whole thing is like, I want to control it, otherwise I don't want anybody else to control it, obviously that's not as sort of proper, I guess. You know what I mean? It's not, you know what I mean? So it's like saying I want it developed outside of large corporations. That makes sense. If he's saying I want only me to develop it, then that doesn't. Do you know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
kind of, yeah.
But the hard thing is also that like okay, you don't even if Elon really did say okay, it's not about my control, it's not about ego. I actually just want this thing to be independent and safe. He might still need to be like, oh, I need to, but I also need to build, the Memphis supercomputer and like connect it to it because otherwise they'll never solve a problem. They'll never be the first to get there. So, yeah, this whole idea that it takes hundreds of billions of dollars is really a tough question. I mean, how do you like you want a nonprofit to show up and you want it to be extremely well funded, but if it's the government, it's going to come with all sorts of weirdness and like military stuff. If it's Microsoft, it's going to come with like crazy stuff. If it's Musk or Amazon or anyone who can really afford it, it just comes with a lot of bureaucracy. I mean, that much money coming without strings is just somewhat of an impossible question.
So today is the closing arguments for this trial. So I don't know too much about how these things go. So does that mean it's close to the end, or is there still like I guess the
Probably.
jury could deliberate for however long, right?
Oh yeah, but you're right. If it's closing arguments, I think that's the end. So yeah.
Is like this the end? I'm trying to figure out. So today's is the closing arguments. Elon Musk's lawyer said, "Imagine a wooden bridge over a gorge 100 feet below." And a woman says, "Don't worry, the bridge is built on Sam Altman's version of the truth. Would you walk across that bridge?"
Oh, that's brutal. I would not.
Yeah. So the first time this thing popped up, I remember I was like talking about it on my channel. We were covering the initial lawsuit, whatever, opening, whatever that document was. I said this whole thing, I think what this is Elon Musk wants you to see something. He's going to put on a show. He's going to put on a play for you and I and everybody else to see something. He wants us to see something. And I think that I think that was correct what I said initially because I don't know if this is a lawsuit that is real in the sense of like this is a lawsuit where he's trying to get some money or something like that. I think he wanted to push the truth about the formation of the company and how everything was happening out there and to also expose some dishonesty and whatever was happening behind the scenes to kind of push it out there for the world to see. I think that was what he was hoping for. So he wins if this affects the public perception of OpenAI and especially the investor perception of OpenAI, right? So if like the
Oh yeah,
IPO,
from the IPO. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So I think that's where that's working. That's how that's heading.
Yeah. Sometimes Elon is really playing like 3D chess. Like he's
Yeah.
thinking, okay, as long as they're like, see, it's hard because in one sense, he might want to keep them down because they really are one of the biggest competitors to exactly what he's doing. So if he can just be like an inch ahead of them and slow them down, it does help him. But if you think about it, if you trust enough that it's not just coming from a pure profit, I want to own the future of AGI, and it just is like, I just don't trust him and want it exposed. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. But yeah, that's going to definitely affect. I do think it's going to affect the IPO. And I personally, there was a time when I did kind of think pretty highly of OpenAI around GPT-4. I really thought, okay, who's this Sam Altman guy? Maybe he's not constrained by the same kind of money. He kind of comes from like a world where, it's important to kind of move fast and break things and stuff like that. But yeah, it does feel like over time, I feel like he's played a lot of games and in some ways he's got to just people please and then like and Sora too, just being like you're gonna use all that compute to just build some attention seeking, you know, short form media thing. It doesn't feel very close to what OpenAI, who might be the first to get to super intelligence, should be doing.
So Ali Katel is saying, why would Elon have made his a nonprofit if he truly believed that? I don't know if the point was for it to necessarily be a nonprofit as much as it was to have it be developed outside of the massive corporations, whether that's Google or Microsoft. I think that was the thing, like have something that is a little bit more accessible outside of the control of major corporations. So I think by his definition, that it could have been him, that could have been somebody else he trusted, that could have been an open source, for profit or nonprofit or anything like that. I think that still makes sense. Again, I'm not saying that he's 100% open about everything. I'm saying this still makes sense to me. His motivations, like if he didn't want Google to develop it in secrecy, because he did a lot to sort of, because Google was going to win the race, right? If you go back to when they were starting 2016, Google had the technology, the talent, everything. So if Google developed it within the walls of Google, you know, I mean, we can argue whether that would have been a good thing or a bad thing, but largely through the efforts of OpenAI and Elon, all of them, this technology did diffuse. I think that's fair to say, right? Or
Okay,
no?
so okay, you can I guess diffusion, yeah, happened, but the the thing this I find it a little bit sad because if you go back in time, what really was happening is DeepMind was far ahead of everyone else. But DeepMind had incredible insulation around it. Like it didn't really get dictated by Google very much at all. It wasn't the kind of thing that was being like forced into any of their other AI systems. And in fact, Google did have another AI team that was kind of more of the team that was like plugging things into Gmail and doing stuff with advertising. In fact, like the reason it's called Gemini is because those two ended up getting merged, but they didn't get merged until after ChatGPT became like a hit. So had we taken an alternative timeline and really just let that play out, I think DeepMind would have become more and more powerful by creating things like AlphaFold and focusing on science. It would have taken longer for a mainstream product to hit, which is okay, but that was kind of nice. Like I didn't think we really needed like I would like to see basically the most high intelligent systems out there solving health problems and game problems and stuff like that before they just became tools for profit. But yeah, and then of course, as soon as it does become mainstream and you see the profit, then you get the money and then you get the war machine behind it and stuff. So it kind of forced, unfortunately, Demis to have to merge his company into Google Main so that we could have Gemini and things like that to compete with it. I don't know. I would have liked to have seen it go the other way. I don't think Demis was the bad guy that needed to be stood up to.
Well, not necessarily. Certainly, I don't see them as the bad guy. So Ali and other people are asking. So it seems like his reasoning doesn't make sense because if Elon wanted a nonprofit, why didn't he make his nonprofit? I understand that argument. I'm not defending him. I'm saying that I don't know if that specific argument makes sense. What he wanted is for it not to be controlled by Google or Microsoft or whomever, by a big corporation. If you, let's say you were building something that you didn't want to be gobbled up by a large corporation, what are the ways to protect it? One, you own and control it, right? That's one. Two, you make it a non-profit, right? Because you technically, these corporations can't buy up a non-profit. Technically, I think that's against the law.
Right.
OpenAI is an example where it did happen, which I think a lot of people are questioning. And like, oh, this can happen. You can start as a nonprofit, attract all the funding and all this, and then flip. That that is a kind of a weird thing that happened. So that's what Elon did.
Yeah. Well, so a couple of things. So DeepMind, when they got purchased in 2014 for $500 million, they negotiated special protections before agreeing, and it was a huge concern. In fact, even Elon was at a lot of these early meetings about how scary AGI could be if it wasn't kept independent, if it wasn't focused that way. So, and they had Mustafa Sullivan, who was extremely concerned about all of that stuff and was building all the health, like AI for healthcare. I don't know. So they had a lot. There was a lot in there, and there was also a time where Demis said, I know we're in the lead. I know we have all the best people, and we want this. I think it was called the 333 board. They wanted some people from Google to be able to have some oversight, but not the majority. It would have been only three of the nine. And when he was trying to get other people to help with this, like Elon Musk at the time, he brought him in and showed them everything they were doing and was like, we need people like you on this board. And
Mhm.
Elon eventually just turned around and created and started like meeting with Sam and funding OpenAI. So instead of getting the oversight that he wanted on the system that he was building and trying to keep as independent as possible, he just ended up creating, he showed it to all these important people and they just were like, oh my God, this is powerful. Let's go create our own. It didn't feel like they did it to balance things out. It felt like they did it because they had the opportunity to balance it out and saw how profitable it would be and then went off and did it. At least that's the vibe I get. I'm also in the middle of the book about DeepMind, so I'm kind of like seeing it from their point of view a lot too. So I understand, there's other viewpoints, but DeepMind didn't negotiate the usual conditions, and they forced Google to sign contracts that were nothing like anything Google had ever signed before in terms of like autonomy and freedom and being in a whole nother country and
Yeah.
operating semi-independent in a way that no other AI research company ever did. So
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. No, that makes sense. My whole thing is Elon's. him not launching it as an open source or a not profit, I don't think that's
Yeah, I agree.
disingenuous because he wants to control it. So, best case scenario, he wants to control it. If he can't, then he wants it at least to be open, not for profit, so that Google and Microsoft, etc., can't control it, right? So, just because he doesn't not for profit his company doesn't mean that he's saying one thing and doing another. I don't think he just doesn't want it to fall in these corporations' hands. So that's his stance, and I'm not saying I agree or disagree with it. It's just I think he's aligned with that goal, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it's weird. And even what the system they have now is sort of weird too, like with the capped for profit, and there's only so much return Microsoft can get. So there's still some elements that are unique to the way OpenAI is. And they do stem from that sort of care, sort of beginning that seemed like it really did care, but it felt like the actual people who cared did move over to Anthropic. So then I sort of started liking them because I was like, the people at OpenAI that cared the most, that were the alignment people, they were led by Dario. And then Dario left because he couldn't have the compute that he wanted. And he's like, okay, well, now I need to go raise money if I'm actually going to do the right thing for AGI. So it's a really interesting mix of people, and I do believe there is a lot of really good people still at OpenAI. I think the highest percentage of people who seem to care about AGI deeply personally is at Anthropic. So that's why I kind of root for them. I also feel like DeepMind as a core team has some really good roots, but they are pulled into the Google system ever since the Gemini merger happened. And I see OpenAI getting merged into Microsoft as fast as possible. So yeah, I don't know. And now, what do you think about the compute? What do you think about Elon giving the compute to Anthropic too? So that makes me kind of like XAI a little bit more too, because if they're allowing, all of that compute to go towards Anthropic, maybe there's something there that he sees. So I can kind of argue both sides for every company. It's just so messy.
Yeah, it's that's an interesting thing because the thing is how much of XAI's or SpaceX AI, whatever the company's calling, whatever it's called now, it's interesting because how much of that compute is sort of unused. It's kind of hard to.
But like, why is it unused? Why doesn't Elon just use all of it? He's in charge of it. He's got a company that builds models.
Well, I think it's actually super complicated to figure out exactly what the sort of you, how much you need to use, how to use it versus how much it costs. Because it's not like, if you produce 10,000 cars, you need to sell 10,000 cars. You know what I mean? That's how most of the stuff kind of works. This is a little bit, or like even a power plant. I feel you can kind of modulate up and down how much sort of like energy you produce to meet demands, etc. With compute, if you bought enough chips to have a certain amount of compute, right? Like if you're only using 10% of it, like you're kind of losing money because the rest of it is sitting unused. So the thing is what you want, and you don't want to go over it. Like you want to be using 100% of your capability at all times. And like what you've seen with Anthropic, like they didn't buy enough compute, and that caused a bunch of issues, right? Because now they have to like reel stuff in. They have to. A lot of people are very mad at them for limiting how many tokens can be used. I mean, I don't know if you've seen that whole drama. Like people are kind of mad at Anthropic because of just all the stuff that they've been doing. People are canceling their accounts. And then at the same time, XAI has this massive expansion, but I don't know if they have enough. He wants to build the coding stuff, and he hasn't been able to catch up to Anthropic and OpenAI with the coding models. And I think that's why they had the Cursor deal, where Cursor gets access to their compute, but really I think it's for the data. A lot of it is for the data because Cursor has the largest amount of users using it for coding purposes every single day. So I think Elon is aggressively trying to catch up on the coding front. And that's why, the thing that I wanted to show today also is like that Grok build thing. So he's got his own CLI. So he's doing everything he can to try to catch up. So he built this massive amount of compute capability that's being unused. I think in part because, I mean, what do you know kind of the ranking, like how many users, daily users, do they have for Grok versus OpenAI and Anthropic? Like, there's a pretty big gap, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know. I mean, there's so many nuances to that. I definitely think if it comes to pulling API for enterprise, there's a gigantic gap between a lot of them and Anthropic, and oddly enough, even a lot of what OpenAI considers their like token usage ends up getting done through the Azure cloud and through people who do that. So I'm not quite sure. But then the actual users is sort of weird too because you're using Grok with your X app and then you're using Gemini because it's almost feels like you use Gemini every time you just try to do like a Google search. But at least if you go to the browser and then you're like looking through your Google Drive, it's like its own thing. And then how many people have actually downloaded the browser from OpenAI and they're using it, or just the app like on their MacBook or on their phone. It gets pretty messy. Or through Apple's devices whenever Siri decides to go call, OpenAI. So everything's kind of everywhere at this point, so I'm not quite sure how you'd want to quantify it or even look it up.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is super hard to project too, because you want obviously as much as compute as possible, but it's so expensive and so limited and so hard to acquire that you're sort of like you're like the company like OpenAI bet a lot on compute, and only now we're saying okay, like they bet correct. They sort of caught the order of magnitude correctly. The Claude, Anthropic, not so much, right? They sort of underestimated. Elon built a boatload, but I don't think he's got enough users doing the heavy tasks to make sort of utilize everything effectively, right?
Okay, that's what you think it is? Because I also wonder. There's a couple ways you might also be able to look at it too, and I won't ever know the truth, so this is kind of speculation. But there could be something where they're about to do a SpaceX AI IPO, and they have to put a line item on there and say how much money does XAI make, and he might want to say like, well, we just signed $10 billion contract with the government and $10 billion with Anthropic, so it looks like the company might be losing money, but it still has some promise of revenue. Like it's kind of like a proof of concept. Like he showed Anthropic wants to be our customer. There are people out there that will pay for this. So it might just make it look better and profitable. But then part of me also thinks like just Elon doesn't really, does he even care at all if it's profitable? Like I'd say he's probably thinks to himself, I'll just use all of this. Like I'm shooting for getting people on Mars. I'm shooting to be the first to AGI. I've got this huge compute system that I built. Like I'm going to use it for all my purposes. Like I'll make Teslas drive better. I'll make new frontier models. I'll make image models. I'll make video models if I have to.
Hmm.
So I also find it sort of surprising that he signed this deal. But I guess from an IPO point of view, if you want to show that you built something of profit and you're going to go IPO and there's going to be, I guess that's when he'll probably finally hit. I guess when this thing goes IPO, it'll probably be the first time we have a trillionaire on Earth, would be my guess. And you also want that thing to go really smooth, so you have more running room in the future to build even more stuff. So
I I think a lot of that is true. I feel like the big thing that at the core of this is this idea that whoever builds the best coding models sort of gets the head start on getting towards automated AI research, because those things go hand in hand, and that's what Anthropic's chasing. That's what OpenAI has been chasing,
and
and
this and
that's
the new strike team inside of Google that Larry
yep.
Page put together.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Because that's where he came in. He's like, all right, guys, like we really need to. Right. So everybody's chasing the same. And by the way, there's rumors that the new model from Google that's going to be announced on Monday or whenever from the Google I/O, it matches or exceeds the capabilities of GPT 5.5. Right. So we've got Anthropic being an absolute boss in coding models for quite some time. Right. The champion, really, right? Then you got GPT-5 that really came up and now matching it. And now I think Google is going to catch up. So you're going to have three incredibly strong coding models. Guess who's missing on the coding front? Guess who's missing from the fight? It's XAI, right? So Grok isn't up there on the same level. And so I think a lot of the things that he's been doing is trying to catch up and close the gap. That's why he fired or let go like all the people that were like the original founders. That's why he did the deal with Cursor. That's why he is working with Anthropic. And so Anthropic is valued at close to a trillion, if I understand
Yeah,
correctly.
8 or 900 million, I think. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then SpaceX, we're looking, it's going to be closer to 2 trillion. And XAI, which is insane.
I know, for a private company. Yeah.
Y- Um, yeah, well, I guess
Right.
when it
Right
goes
before.
IPO,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, right, yeah, yeah. And then XAI was like 250 billion of
Yeah.
that. So it's a
Dude, it
pretty big.
makes like Saudi Aramco look small, and
Hmm.
God, even like the purchase of Twitter just seemed so extreme when that was like happening, and now it's like nothing. I actually even remember way back when Instagram got purchased for 1 billion, and I was like, oh my God, that doesn't make sense. It's like nothing today, you know.
Yeah.
100 billion is reasonable to talk about.
But I think Elon's compute is a way to he's trading compute for strategically for people that have access to data that is able to improve coding models. So he's like Cursor.
Yeah.
Cursor's the biggest user base for coding models ever. They have like the sweetest data for all that because you have real engineers, real coders sitting there
Yeah.
using it day in day out to create stuff. So
And he's
all of
got
that.
that guarantee for 60 billion. He can snatch it up, but I probably would. I mean, it's crazy to think Cursor is worth more than Twitter was when he bought it, but it also would make sense to me. I think if I was Elon and just looking at this whole situation, I'd be like, yeah, let's just get Cursor, because how else are you going to catch up to Anthropic? And you
So
and you know that flywheel might be worth tens of trillions, so to go for it, you know.
so Leaf Davidson is saying whoever can hype the best wins the short term. I agree, and I think that was the case for a while. I think now we're beginning to see a slightly different sort of dynamic in a sense that you can't hype coding models. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a
Like,
good point. No,
you
you're
know what I
right.
mean?
That's not how the coders are going to buy it.
I get in there. I use Codex, Cursor, Claude Code. I flip between them. I use OpenClaw sometimes to do coding. I can flip between like you're not gonna BS your way out of a poor coding model, right? Because when people get their hands on it, like, this thing is stupid. It can't, do the thing that I want it to do. And then when you get your hands on something that's truly a step forward, you're like, whoa. So it's hard. Like it's like no matter how much noise you make about how awesome it is, when people get their hands on it. With everything else, it's a little bit more fluid. You
Yeah.
can BS your way through coding. I don't think so.
No, you're right. Even
Um,
with the image models, I feel like I can always argue that this one's a little better than that
right,
one or
right.
something. And then maybe with video, it's like, but this one still has more power to do this. But you're right with the coding tools. But by the way, did you see this coming? Because I will say I totally slept on Anthropic. I if you walk back about a year, I remember thinking like I kind of hope Anthropic does well, but you know what I mean? Like they're not. I don't see image models coming out of their system. I don't see video models. I don't see multimodal stuff. I just was like, they're probably just going to be something like SSI or one of these, or like, I don't know, one of these companies where it's impressive, but it's not going to be frontier. But they just, maybe even that limitation of compute made them focus on coding. And now I was like, oh, I missed that flywheel. Because the second the code starts making the next version of Anthropic's models, they get better. They spin that flywheel a little bit faster. They open up a gap. Enterprise wants all this because that's where all the money is. You can now use code to predict the stock market, to build stuff, and then later you can bring that compute back in once you're the dominant software company and have all the cash. And
Yeah.
if you want to go play the multimodal, Sora game. But I think Sora is always going to look like the big mistake. That was where the side quest blew the main advantage that they got.
It seemed so. No, you asked me if I kind of foresaw it or no. Anthropic never struck me as early on is like they're going to go anywhere. They always seem to me like, oh yeah, good luck. You're the underdog. We're cheering for you. But they seem to always kind of say, this is the path. We're going to stick to the path. And then over time, it became blatantly obvious how incredibly correct they were. And it doesn't seem like it was, it almost seemed like they had some glimpse of the future and they're like, this is everything that we're going to focus on. They doubled down and it worked. And the idea was pretty simple. It was, as far as I understand, number one, treat this thing like an entity, right? So the sole document, the Constitution, the lady that does a lot of like the behavioral research, like Amanda
Yeah.
Askell.
Yep.
Like think about how unique that is at the time. You're like, what sole document? What are these people talking about? But man, obviously something about everything that they've been doing, because Claude has had the best sort of personality or understanding or some sort of like long-term coherence long before the other models. They kicked it into high gear of coding long before the other models for a lab that has like 1/10 of the capital, right? So it's like if they're able to allocate their capital when they have like a tenth of it, and still race above the other labs, like obviously they know something that the other labs don't. So yeah, notice, yeah, they didn't have an image model or a video, like they didn't wander off the trail following some side quest. They're like, we're going to build the smartest model that can code, and that's going to translate into its own automated AI researcher.
Hmm.
And I don't think they did anything to ever even step to the side of that, right? They just on that course.
Right. And that helped him attract some of the best people in the industry that kind of believed in that desire to be, to kind of save the. I mean, there's AI people out there that are top tier researchers, and they're not thinking to themselves, "Oh, I just need to get with whatever company will pay me the most." They think all the companies will give me more money than I can handle. Like, and I do think that AI might really disrupt the entire world. It might be the invention of intelligence. It might completely change things. Where do I want to contribute? And Dario always had a really good play for that. He said, "Hey, I'm one of the smartest people in this industry. I was a crucial part in OpenAI, and I'm leading from a little bit of my heart, along with making sure that it's commercially viable enough to get us to the top spot." And I think he attracted some really great people.
Yeah, and out of everybody, out of all the other foundation labs, like he is the closest it seems like with Demis. They're on stage. They seem like they have really good sort of they're aligned, so to speak. They're seem like they're good friends, or at least they share a lot of like the stuff that they think about. So it's the also the lab closest to Google, right? They're the first lab to be able to buy TPUs as metal to put on their
Yeah,
own
sorry, I
shells.
forgot about that.
So yeah, I mean, Anthropic might be the big winner because they just seem to have some. Yeah, he does seem to have some sort of like a prescient sort of glimpse to the future that he's following very artistically. He doesn't
Right. No,
doesn't
that's
go off
true.
the course.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna do this." He's like, "What are you doing? Don't you want a video model to make AI sloppy? Don't just do this." And
Right. And
it's like, yeah, okay, well, you're winning. You're winning with a fraction of the capital that everybody else is using.
and if you're a U.S. citizen too, I mean, he's tried. I know they went through that whole thing where he's been like blacklisted or whatever. But you could see Claude was one of the first models to try to help with defense, and then also like write some ideas about like what the right use cases and the wrong use cases are. So I don't know that they're tackling some heavy problem. I mean, constitutional AI itself is such a difficult problem. I mean, it's the problem nobody can solve, which is like, what does a good agent look like? What does a good person look like? Because it changes so much. Everybody has different values and principles and constraints on like where the system should say, "Hey, I'm sorry, I can't answer this question," when it should maybe like turn you in. Like, I don't know. Like somebody has to handle these questions, and they're extremely tricky. There is no right answer.
Yeah, that's the other thing that they're like so far ahead of on, like you said, is like the whole idea of AI alignment, interpretability to understanding what's happening within the neural networks. There's nobody that's even close. They're publishing some of the most interesting research. Somebody once said like Anthropic is just a safety lab that decided that the best way to test safety is to just scale up these models as fast as possible so that they can like live test them, in real time. And I can't get that out of my head.
Yeah,
Like everybody else is
you
like, we're gonna,
convinced me of that.
yeah, like
Yeah.
everybody else is building them for the sake of building, and they're like, no, we're gonna build it so we can make sure they're safe. Like they're like, it's insane.
Right. Well, and okay, and you might fall on some different spectrums. Like I think everybody's a little different, but I think these systems need to have sort of a more like somebody does need to kind of build some morality into it. And where what the morals are, who gets conversations about what's in them, I hope is a very like big collaborative conversation. I hope like a lot of individual citizens get to say, here's kind of my take on morality and here's how it is sort of factored into the system. But the alternative, which is that like, no, like free markets, invisible hand, just go at it. Like everybody just build whatever you want. Like to me, that's not the way to build something like that this powerful. Like that definitely does work for all sorts of other situations and for things like nuclear weapons. It's like not the greatest idea to just everybody gets access to uranium. We'll see what happens, like we'll see if that keeps us all safe. It all balance out. Like it just seems too powerful at some point. But having everybody included in the outcome, like having all of us benefit when Anthropic makes trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars or something, like hopefully there's some way to kind of balance that out. But it'll be tricky. There's definitely no good answer to this.
Yeah. So for people that are interested in using Grok build beta. So it looks like you do need Super Grok, which is the kind of expensive one. That's the one that's like 300 a month. They do have a few promotions where I guess you can get it for free for a couple of days. So for people that are sort of interested in doing that, there's that. I'm having a little bit of trouble logging in, so I'm probably gonna be testing it off camera, and I'll do like a video. I'll do a video about it later, just because I guess I thought I had it set up, but I don't. But so far, it's looking pretty good. It's looking like they have, you know, the sort of yeah. It's saying Super Grok heavy subscription required,
Hmm.
which I don't think that's the same as OpenAI and Anthropic. Like, you don't need the 200, $300 a month, you know, plan in order to be on there. Somebody really fast mentioned Cal Newport. Yeah, that was a little bit weird because I listened to some of his videos on AI, and I was very surprised about the his takes. It felt very strange to me what he was saying because number one, he was saying everything so adamantly, like he's like 1,000% certain of this and this and this. Like it was very just like very strong statements about things that I think are at least you have should have some doubt about it, or at least you should have some like room for nuance. So he was saying like it's there's he was saying it's absolute nonsense that these models are working on any sort of recursive self improvement when we've seen papers published by Google, by Sakana AI, by lots of others, showing these models over time getting better and better at conducting machine learning research. There's a ML bench or whatever it is that actually tracks that. So him saying that it's complete nonsense, I think is it's like wrong. I mean, just factually wrong. He was saying that there's no way it's going to affect jobs in any meaningful way. I think that's like come on, like we have to like we're not saying everybody's going to lose their jobs tomorrow, but we're saying like hey, this really seems like it's going to have it's obvious that it's going to have some impact, and we should sort of like think about it. His strong statements to the contrary was surprising. He's like there's no chance of this, there's no chance of that. And I kind of did a video about it. I'm like man, like, and somebody pointed out the what is it, the Dunner Kruger thing is like
Oh yeah,
the
yeah.
the
Dunning Kruger effect. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. When you don't know too much about a specific subject, you feel like you know everything about it. You're like, ah, no, this 100% certain that this is the case, right? But then sort of like as you expand your knowledge, right? So if like your knowledge is a circle, like the sort of the circumference of that circle, that's where you past that you don't know things. So
Yeah.
your awareness of how much you don't know grows with your sort of as knowledge increases, you realize how much more you don't know, right? So the more I learn about AI, the more I realize how much more I don't know. So my
Yeah.
takes, you know what I mean? So my takes are getting more like new, like hopefully nuanced. We're like, I'm not sure. Here's what I know, but I'm not gonna say definitively I know
Yeah.
this. You know what I mean?
So I don't know if you feel the same way too, but since both of us have been making videos pretty much every week on AI, do you almost feel like you know less now than you started?
Oh man.
I get this sense that when I started, people were like, "Oh, like Dylan's like a tech guy, like he's pretty good with AI." Like I had a machine learning certificate and I'd programmed a few little things, and then I was like, "Oh, I'll make videos and I'll read research papers." And then year after year now I've done this and I'm like, "Wow, like I don't know much about how this is going to play out at all anymore. Like my
Mm-hmm.
actual certainty
Mm-hmm.
on what model is best and like when to use something, it's almost like fallen off a cliff because now I feel more lost than ever."
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way. And unfortunately, I get so frustrated now because so many more people are jumping into the talking about AI and stuff like that. And I get so frustrated by people that have these like black and white takes. Like, there's
Hmm.
no chance of this happening. It's like,
Like, dude, you just started making videos last week.
just yeah, like look at what's actually happening. Like at the very least, realize that there's a lot of room for error. That we're entering a brand new territory. We've never had a technology like this. This is completely different. At least have some sort of like humility and some like
Hmm.
awe in the face of like what we're building here. So my thing with Cal Newport wasn't that I disagree with the statements. I'm just like I wish that he didn't make it as because he's got a big audience and a lot of people listen to him. I'm like, I wish you just left some room for error because like we don't know. So at least say, hey, like this, like just be a little bit more nuanced in the takes. Let us say there's 1,000%. I'm completely sure this is not the case. When we know this is the case because like the labs are publishing papers, and I think that's part of him maybe not reading all those papers and not tracking as closely. Because I mean, what I've noticed is like when I watched his videos, he never cites any of the research by labs. He never cites anything by the labs. He just says this is he just talks with no citations. It's a little bit frustrating. I'm like, well, what about this? What about this? Haven't you read this? Like, here's a paper that directly contradicts what you're saying. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
like Cal Newport. I like him. I liked his book. I like him as a person. He seems funny and like I like the person. I'm just man, just I wish he would tone it down just a little bit.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah, I think Einstein described that sort of knowledge as that circle, and like the bigger the circle gets, the more surface area there is touching the unknown. So it's like just the larger you get with knowledge, the more unknowns that you're like sort of aware about. And yeah, I mean, this whole when we have conversations, they can go so many ways. Like you can talk about influencing the stock market, you can influence like uh, robots and self-driving cars. You can kind of think about it from a consciousness point of view, like what's actually working here, like why does reinforcement working like actually work. We've seen actual biological and digital systems come together and we see the future of things like Neuralink, and it's just endlessly strange and complicated. And then even just a world with trillions of agents with more autonomy than they have now because they can spend money and they could imagine like 550 agents all try to sue you just to slow you down because you're working on something in the future because that's a strategy they decided would be more profitable. Like we'll have to deal with a world like that. And
Hmm.
yeah, it just goes on and on, like and how it's going to affect us as work and society and what makes us happy, like relationships and addiction and
Hmm.
advertising. You know what I mean? That's and and like when I generally think about these people or I'm putting together my videos, I'm kind of coming from a place that's pretty big. Like my mind just naturally is kind of on the 10,000 foot level of where things are. So when I see ads coming to ChatGPT, I think, okay, if this is something Sam Altman approved,
Hmm.
he's clearly not concerned about the manipulation at the same level I am, right? And then when I see something like Anthropic put out a commercial saying we're never going to have ads in our tool, it to me that doesn't come from a place of profit. Like they're not saying like, oh, we don't know how to do ads, so we're going to like try to shut down our competitor. It's just it comes from a totally different place. Like they've never been building constitutional AI and the whole idea of AGI to include ads because that's not very well aligned. You know, and they didn't really need video and they didn't need images at that time either.
Hmm.
So yeah, just some of those, and to Elon's credit, sometimes I do think, you know, he was at some of these early meetings. He's expressed that he's read certain stories about how AI can go in really bad places. So I know it's somewhere deep down in his head, he is aware of like what humanity could become on a higher level. So I do kind of look at that. Whereas, you know, if you're just Satya Nadella, as interesting and as smart as he is, I'm just not sure he's running Microsoft from that as like a core principle. I don't see Sam running from a core principle. And you know, at Google, I don't see their CEO doing it that way, but I do see Demis doing it that
Yeah,
way. And I know
I
he's got
agree.
a lot of interests. I'm kind of like, I can kind of go back and forth on them depending on who seems like they're making decision control. So it's just an
Yeah,
interesting place.
yeah, I agree with that. So who's at the top of your trust list for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Demis and Dario stand
Hmm.
out above everyone else. And then I've got this sort of weird mix of things that I have evidence for with Elon, where I've seen him do some stuff that doesn't always feel like it's in the best interest of citizens, but I'm sure in his mind he is thinking like, okay, I'm just going to need to take control of this because I've got to be sort of the one person who can do it. Whereas the other two seem a little bit more towards diplomacy and oversight. So I lean towards them being more impactful. And then I see just like actual, just pure business money people being closer. In fact, I'll probably put Sam at the bottom. I used to put him higher, but I think I'd put Sam on the same level as just like Satya Nadella yeah, Zuckerberg doesn't seem like he's like truly motivated by any of that stuff either. So yeah, it's like kind of like Zuck and Satya. These people just seem like traditional CEOs of huge tech companies, just mostly doing what they're contractually obligated to their shareholders first and foremost.
Yeah, I feel like if you're running a big company, yeah, you get into that mindset of just numbers and quarters and like how do we grow, and it's very different from being able to kind of philosophically step back and think about it where stuff is going. So yeah, you don't necessarily want the CEOs to you don't want the sort of like the moral and ethical considerations to be in their hands. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they will still put some effort into it. So I'm not saying that like democracy as it stands is great. Like there is some element where Satya Nadella says, "Hey, I can't release something that's not safe because something that's not safe means we're going to get sued, and it means Microsoft's going to lose money, or if it's saying racist things, then people won't use our product, and it won't be considered corporate worthy." So there's some elements of it that are there, but it's not the same as like building Constitution into its core because AGI is going to like disrupt the entire world. They're just not at the same level of security and long-term vision in my head.
Yeah. Really fast, somebody, subject 405. What do you think people will become of bounty hunting with AI? So, I mean, we used to have like bounties on people finding various exploits, right? If you found an exploit, you can submit it, get some money. That's really
Oh.
being affected. Some places have shut down that recently because of AI, whether it's because of just nonsense that the AI is submitting or because I mean, it's going to change. So one really interesting thing, I think Andre Karpathy was the one that's talking about this on the A16Z podcast or Sequoia Capital podcast recently. Very, very interesting thing to very good interview to watch. He was saying like, how does he imagine the interview process of hiring a software engineer to go in the future? And he explained it, and as he explained it, I was like, he tends to like see the future very clearly. I feel like Andre. So he kind of said, okay, so basically how it's going to look is, this engineer is going to come in. You're going to say, okay, use whatever agents, whatever AI you want. build me a perfect replica of the X or Instagram or whatever, populated with mock AI agents that are going to talk and this and this. So basically, build out a fully functional thing,
Mm.
right? It's so hard to say X nowadays because am I talking about the social network or am I saying like some
Yeah,
unknown?
yeah, yeah.
In this situation, it could
That's
be either
fine.
or. You just build something that is on a scale of like a big social network with a lot of moving parts and blah blah blah, and then here's take 24 hours, right? So that's going to test their ability to be able to control AI agents to build out this thing, also their ability to sort of like visualize and engineer the process, and then you employ AI agents to actually build it. And then once he or she submits it, the company, the hiring manager is going to be like, all right, now I'm going to unleash my team of agents upon it to see if we can find any vulnerabilities, right? So they're going to, like Matrix 3, when all
Oh,
those bots
interesting. Yeah, yeah.
descend upon
Yeah, I
the
had that
city and they
visual.
have to yeah, yeah. So that's the next part, right? And that's going to be the interview process, right? Can you build this highly complex thing and using AI agents? Nobody's testing your ability to type numbers and characters into a terminal. We're testing, can you engineer it, and then can you employ the agents to build it as you see fit? And then this thing needs to stop. And then we're gonna deploy our agents to see if we can break it, right?
Interesting.
And so somebody's asking, so like, how do you see the bounty hunting program? I think it's going to be more like that. It's going to be more in the aggregate. Like if you figured out some agentic swarm that descends upon these software things and just tries to like break it, and then you print out a report and saying, here's all of these things that we managed to break, I think companies would still pay for that, especially if you have some new proprietary system that is finds more vulnerabilities, not just security, but also just bugs and things that break and what are, like everything, UI little glitches, right? And you just submit
Yeah.
it, and the thing's like, wow, that's worth $1,000 to us. Here's $1,000, and then you just take that sheet, you give it to your agents, and they line by line try to fix it.
So yeah, so first off, I had not heard the Andrew Karpathy interview, so that was really fascinating, and I think that gave me a lot of new thoughts. But when you first asked about the bounty, and it was also something I hadn't thought about, it to me that was very much a good solution. Like I don't know for sure, but it does seem to me that what I just read in my cyber hacking article from Google was that the scale was very quick. The 0 days came in really quick, and that they deployed a lot of agents and systems to quickly patch it. And there was some damage done because it was just happening so quick. Like they were fast to patch, but there was a lot that happened in those like first few hours that also were problematic. So yeah, if Google said, "Hey, here's the deal. Like we're doubling down on bounties. Here's a ton of money, like a ton of money, and it's all here for you, human agents, doesn't matter who. We just want to have these things discovered and patched as soon as possible." That, yeah, what do they care? Like maybe there's 5,000 open claws from China that find the Gmail mistake and they patch it and they submit it to Google instantly and get paid. And that amount of money that they made would be more than taking than actual hacking those like those accounts and taking information and putting it on the dark web and all the risk that comes with being tracked down for doing something illegal like that. Just make that honeypot sweeter and probably don't keep it internal. Make it a huge marketplace that me and you, you could tell your OpenClaw like, hey, like when I go to bed tonight, just go see if you can get some money from Google. Like maybe you do, maybe you don't.
Yeah, I thought you were going somewhere else with the last point because the downside, the thing that this breaks, unfortunately. So I agree 100% with everything you said. The disclosure is where stuff starts breaking down because in the past, if you found some exploit that might affect other companies, you would post or you would disclose it. You'd say, we found this exploit in our own thing, and you tell all the other companies about it so that they can go and fix them, on their own. The thing is now it might almost not be possible because as soon as you post a disclosure, all the bad guy AI agents could go and exploit it. Even if you don't post the actual code, you just say, you hint at what it is, like when there's an issue with the UI that allows you to XYZ or whatever, right? All those things can start testing. That's, you gave them a hint. You gave them sort of a surface to attack.
Hmm.
So that becomes a massive problem because you can autonomously scan everybody else's whatever disclosure,
Yeah.
whatever they put out there, and then just immediately go out and just attack everybody based on those things.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe behind Google's walls, they could have a bunch of AI agents that are waiting for input, and then someone comes to them, and even if it's an agent, and says, "Hey, I found this bug. Here's the code that I think could be exploited in this way," and their agent reads it and says, "Oh, this actually is a bug that we should patch." It writes the bug and it shows somebody at Google what it did, and then they pay out afterwards, and then I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question, but maybe there could be sort of just some layers where you can talk to Google anonymously and they can patch something and then you get your reward publicly and then it all becomes public or something. But maybe a bunch of companies need that or there needs to be some kind of bigger marketplace for it. But I just really like the idea of how fast this is going, protection being somewhat of like a honeypot carrot and stick kind of thing, right? Like if I see you exploiting it, I'm obviously going to pursue you with my bots. I'm going to try to figure out who you are and I'm going to try to sue you and punish you. But also, if you want to just tell me what you're doing right now, I can just hand you a bunch of cash. I don't care
Yeah.
who you are. I don't need to know your identity. Maybe you're a bad guy, maybe you're a good guy. As long as
Yeah.
it's protecting my users, I'm happy. But I will try to seek out your identity if you're hurting me.
With AI agents, we can almost have like a not a mortgage. What is it called? Where you have where you deposit something with a third party until the transaction goes through a. You know what
Oh
I'm
yeah,
talking
of course. Every house puts money in a escrow account.
escrow account.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we can have almost like an agent escrow account
Yeah.
where one agent goes, "Hey, I have a major thing I found with your infrastructure," and then the bot on the side of that organization is like, "Okay, we would escrow." Somebody said, "Thank you." If it is as you say it is, this is worth $1,000 to us or whatever it is, right?
Hmm.
And then an escrow account somehow manages that transaction. Yeah, I mean, the people that are like the hackers could probably make a lot more money, a lot safer than actually trying to hack. I mean, it is dangerous to hack,
Yeah.
obviously.
Well, yeah, and maybe there is even another AI agent that kind of handles that money too, because Google might say, all right, here's I don't know, $50 million for cybersecurity. You guys allocate it as possible, but as an issue shows up and there's that actual leak, and a customer information shows up on the internet, all of a sudden the escrow account like jumps from $1,000 to $400,000 because Google's all of a sudden get like, oh crap, like if we get another leak at this caliber, we're in trouble, you know? So then all of a
Hmm.
sudden there's more money there and all the bots are like, oh, look at all that money. Let me find a solution to this problem. Like somebody's doing this. How could they be doing it? Like, I mean, I'm sure they'll have their own internal teams too, but yeah, just the whole incentive system of the entire world has to kind of get on par with this sort of level of speed.
It's gonna get weird, and we have to get such new infrastructure and just ideas to do this. Um, I think we should maybe wrap it up. It's
Okay.
almost it's getting a little bit late. I am slowly like fading out here. I'm still fighting off my sickness. Everybody that joined us, first of all, thank you so much for being here. You people are amazing, and thank you for being engaged and chatting with us. It was so fun. So yeah, Dylan, anything else you want the people to know? Should we leave them on a positive note, a negative note?
I don't know. Yeah, knowing me, but yeah. I mean, I just yeah, Dylan Curious on YouTube. If you're not already subscribed to me, and then you're probably already Wes Roth on YouTube, and we have our podcast channel, Wes and Dylan. Um, yeah. Other than that, nothing else. Just appreciate everybody just staying with us and throwing out thoughts with us.
Yes, thank you so much for interacting, Ali Catales. Thank you so much. You climbed to the number one spot for interactions. Thank you. That was very impressive. Like slowly just grind up the leaderboard. So thank you for that. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully this was informative and fun. I'm gonna try to do a little bit more of these. So yeah, tune in next time. And yeah, until next time. See
All
you later.
right. See you then. Bye.
Bye. And of course, this is the time when I have no
We
idea.
stay live but don't know how to get off it.
Because there's like a delay.